Oran had fought in 300 wars. He had killed enemies on burning worlds and frozen moons. He had stood in the front lines when entire fleets fell from the sky. In all those years, across all those battles, he had never once felt afraid. They were made for war. Scientists had designed them thousands of years ago to be the perfect soldiers. They stood 8 feet tall with 4 strong arms. Their skin was covered in scales harder than metal. Their brains could process combat information faster than any computer. And most importantly, they felt no fear. Fear was a weakness. Fear made soldiers hesitate. Fear got warriors killed, so they were built without it. Oran was proud of what he was. He had earned every medal on his chest. He had never lost a battle. He had never retreated. Among his people, he was considered a legend. So when the Galactic Coalition told him he would be fighting alongside humans, he felt insulted. He knew about humans, of course. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They came from a small blue planet on the edge of nowhere. They had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. They were new to the galactic community, young and inexperienced. Their bodies were soft and weak. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons of any kind. They lived short lives, barely 100 years if they were lucky. By standards, they were practically children. The coalition had formed to fight the Devourer swarm, a species of creatures that consumed everything in their path. Worlds, ships, people, the Devourers ate it all. They moved across the galaxy like a plague, leaving nothing behind but empty rocks and silence. Every species had agreed to work together to stop them, even the humans. Oran thought this was a mistake. Humans would slow them down. Humans would get in the way. Humans would die, and real soldiers would have to waste time protecting them. He said all of this to his commanding officer. His commanding officer told him to follow orders. The carrier ship was called the Relentless Dawn. It was a massive vessel, home to thousands of soldiers from dozens of species. Oran reported to the mixed unit barracks on the 47th deck. When he walked through the door, he saw them for the first time. There were 4 humans sitting around a metal table. They were playing some kind of card game. They looked up when he entered, and for a moment, nobody spoke. Oran studied them with his combat sensors. 2 males, 2 females. All of them were small, barely reaching his chest. Their skin was various shades of pink and brown. Their eyes were soft, without the protective membranes that possessed. They wore simple cloth uniforms that would offer no protection in battle. They looked fragile, breakable, temporary. One of them stood up. She was a female with short red hair and green eyes. There was a scar on her chin and another across her left eyebrow. She walked toward him without hesitation, her boots clicking on the metal floor. "You must be the," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I'm Sergeant Murphy. Welcome to the unit." She extended her hand. Oran knew this was a human greeting. He reached out with one of his 4 arms and wrapped his fingers around hers. Her hand was warm and soft. He could have crushed every bone in it without effort. She did not seem afraid of this. "I am Oran," he said. "I have fought in 300 campaigns." Murphy nodded. "Good, we could use the experience." She introduced the others. The smiling male was Corporal Danny. He had dark hair, brown skin, and a photograph pinned to his chest armor. Later, Oran would learn it was a picture of his daughter. The young one was Private Ben. He could not have been more than 20 years old by human counting. His hand shook slightly when he shook Oran's hand. The last one was Lieutenant Sam. He was the leader. He had gray eyes and brown hair that was starting to turn white at the edges. When he looked at Oran, there was something in his gaze that they could not identify. "We've read your file," said. "You're the most decorated warrior on this ship. We're honored to serve with you." Oran did not know how to respond to this, did not speak of honor. They spoke of duty and efficiency and results. "I will do my job," he said finally. Smiled, it was a strange expression. That's all any of us can do. Over the next 3 days, Oran observed the humans. He watched them train. He watched them eat. He watched them prepare their equipment. Everything he saw confirmed his initial assessment. They were slow and weak and poorly equipped. Their weapons were primitive. They still used projectile firearms that threw metal at high speeds, had abandoned such weapons centuries ago in favor of plasma rifles and particle beams. Human armor was thin and light, designed for mobility rather than protection. A single devourer claw could cut through it like paper. But there were other things Oran noticed, things that did not fit his expectations. The humans never stopped talking. They told jokes and stories. They laughed at things that were not funny. Corporal showed his daughter's picture to everyone he met, even aliens who had no understanding of human children. Private admitted openly that he was scared, and instead of being punished for this weakness, the others comforted him. Sergeant Murphy spent hours maintaining her equipment. Her rifle was old and scratched, but every part of it was clean and perfect. She treated it like a living thing. Lieutenant read books, actual books made of paper with words printed on them. When Oran asked why he did not use a data screen like everyone else, said, "I like the way they smell." This made no sense. Nothing about humans made sense. On the third night, Oran filed his official report. He recommended that the human soldiers be placed in support roles, far from actual combat. He listed their weaknesses in detail. He explained that they would be a liability in battle. The next morning, his commanding officer rejected the recommendation. "The humans stay in the front lines," the officer said. "Coalition orders." Oran accepted this. He was a soldier. He followed orders, but privately he began to prepare himself. When the fighting started, he would have to protect these fragile creatures. He would have to watch them die. He felt nothing about this. He felt nothing about anything. But somewhere deep in his engineered brain, in a place that was not supposed to exist, something was beginning to stir. A question he could not answer. A doubt he could not name. What if he was wrong about them? He pushed the thought away. He was never wrong, he was. The mission briefing came the next morning. A devourer hive ship had been detected near a colony world called 7. 40,000 civilians needed evacuation. The mixed unit would drop to the surface and hold the defensive line while transports escaped. It was a simple mission. Hold the line, kill the enemy, protect the innocent. Oran had done it 300 times before. He did not know that this time would be different. He did not know that everything was about to change. He did not know that he was about to learn the meaning of fear. The dropship shook as it fell through the atmosphere of 7. Red lights flashed on the walls. Warning alarms screamed. The metal floor vibrated so hard that Oran could feel it in his bones. He sat in his seat, 4 arms gripping the safety harness, and ran through his combat protocols. His brain calculated distances, angles, and kill zones. His body prepared itself for violence. Everything was working perfectly. Across from him, the humans were doing something strange. They were laughing. Corporal was telling a story about his daughter's birthday party. Something about a cake that fell on the floor and a dog that ate it before anyone could stop it. The other humans were listening, smiling, shaking their heads. Private was laughing so hard that tears ran down his face. The ship was falling toward a planet full of monsters, and these creatures were laughing about a dog eating cake. Oran did not understand. "You should relax," Sergeant Murphy said. She was looking at him with those green eyes. "Tension wastes energy." "I am not tense," Oran said. "I am prepared." Murphy smiled. There was no fear in her face. There was no worry, no doubt, no hesitation. She looked like someone going to a party, not a battle. "Being prepared is good," she said, "but you should still relax. The fighting will come soon enough." Lieutenant stood up and grabbed a handle on the ceiling to keep his balance. The ship was still shaking, but he moved easily, like he had done this 1,000 times. "Listen up," he said. His voice was calm but strong. Everyone stopped talking and looked at him. We all know the mission. Drop zone is 2 miles from the colony. Devourers are already on the ground. Our job is to hold the western perimeter until the transports get everyone out. That's 40,000 people, including children and elderly. They're counting on us." He paused and looked at each of them in turn. When his eyes met Oran's, they felt something strange. A connection, a recognition. "I won't lie to you," continued. "This is going to be hard. The swarm is big and we're a small unit. But I've seen what each of you can do. I believe in this team. Stay together, watch each other's backs, and we'll get through this." The humans nodded. Some of them touched their weapons. Some of them touched the photographs and small objects they kept in their pockets, kissed his fingers and pressed them to the picture of his daughter. Private raised his hand. His face was pale. "Sir, I'm scared." Oran waited to punish him for this admission of weakness. That was what officers would do. Fear was not allowed. Fear was failure. But just nodded. "Good, fear keeps you sharp, use it." Murphy put her hand on shoulder. "We're all scared, kid. Anyone who says they aren't is lying. The trick is to be scared and fight anyway." Took a deep breath and nodded. Some color returned to his face. Oran processed this information. It did not match anything in his training. Did not admit fear because did not feel fear. But these humans felt it openly, shared it freely, and somehow turned it into strength. It made no sense. The ship hit the ground hard. The door opened and hot air rushed in. Oran smelled smoke and blood and something else. Something rotten. The smell of devourers. He was the first one out. His 4 arms raised 4 weapons, scanning the tree line. His combat protocols identified movement in dozens of locations. The enemy was already here. "Contact," he shouted. "Multiple targets north and northwest." The humans poured out behind him. They moved fast, faster than he expected. They spread into a defensive formation without needing orders, each one covering a different angle. Their movements were smooth and practiced. Then the devourers came. They burst from the trees like a wave of nightmares. They were tall and thin, with bodies made of black bone and muscle. Their arms ended in blades 3 feet long. Their mouths were full of teeth that never stopped growing. They did not speak or think or feel. They only consumed. Oran opened fire. His plasma rifle cut through the first wave like a hot knife through water. Bodies fell and burned. His combat protocols counted the kills automatically. 7, 12, 20. But more kept coming. The humans fired their primitive weapons. Bullets flew through the air, punching holes in devourer flesh. It was not as efficient as plasma, but it worked. The creatures fell. More took their place. The humans kept firing. Oran noticed something. The humans were talking, constantly, loudly, without stopping. They called out targets and warnings and positions. They told each other where to move and when to reload. It was messy and chaotic, but somehow it worked. They covered each other without needing orders. They protected each other without being told. A devourer broke through the line and charged at Private. The young human turned too slow. The creature's blade was already swinging toward his head. Murphy moved. She did not think. She did not calculate. She just moved, faster than any human should be able to move, and threw herself into the devourer's path. Her knife found its throat as its blade found her shoulder. They both fell, rolling in the dirt. Murphy stood up first. Blood ran down her arm. A piece of bone stuck out through her uniform. She should have been screaming in pain. She should have been falling down. Instead, she pulled the bone out, threw it away, and picked up her rifle. "I'm fine," she said. "Keep fighting." Oran stared at her. His combat protocols had no category for what he was seeing. She was hurt. She was damaged. She should retreat and seek medical attention. That was the logical thing to do. But she kept fighting. The battle lasted 4 hours. The devourers kept coming in waves. The humans kept killing them. When they ran low on ammunition, they used knives. When their knives broke, They used rocks and pieces of metal in their bare hands. Murphy took 2 more wounds. She never stopped fighting. Sang songs while he fired his weapon. Strange, happy songs about sunshine and good times. His voice never wavered, even when a devourer blade cut his cheek open. Stopped being scared somewhere in the second hour. He started being angry instead. He screamed at the devourers as he killed them, calling them names that Oran did not understand. Was everywhere. He moved through the battle like water, always appearing where he was needed most. His voice stayed calm the entire time. He gave orders, offered encouragement, and killed enemies with equal ease. When the last transport finally lifted off, carrying the last of the civilians to safety, the devourers retreated. The ground was covered with their bodies. The air smelled like death. Oran looked at the humans. They were covered in blood, both their own and the enemy's. They were tired and hurt and barely standing, but they were alive. And they were smiling. Not bad for a first mission, said. He was looking at Oran. What do you think of the team now? Oran did not answer. He did not know what to say. For the first time in 300 campaigns, he had seen something he could not explain. Something that did not fit in his carefully organized brain. Something that made him question everything he believed about war and weakness and what it meant to be a soldier. He did not have a name for it yet. But he knew he wanted to see more. The evacuation was almost complete. The last transport sat in the middle of the colony, loading the final group of civilians. 300 people, mostly children and their caretakers, waited in lines to board. They were scared but orderly. They trusted the soldiers to keep them safe. Oran stood at the perimeter with the humans, watching the tree line. The devourers had retreated, but they had not gone far. He could hear them in the forest, clicking and scratching, waiting for something. They're too quiet, Murphy said. She was holding her rifle with her one good arm. The medic had wrapped her shoulder, but she refused to leave the line. Devourers don't go quiet like this. Nodded. He was studying a small device in his hand, some kind of human scanner. His face was serious. I don't like it either, he said. Something's wrong. The ground shook. It was small at first, just a tremor. Then it grew stronger. The dirt began to crack and split. Oran's combat protocols screamed warnings. Burrowers, he shouted. They're coming from below. The ground behind the transport exploded. Dirt and rock flew everywhere. From the hole came devourers, dozens of them, pouring out like water from a broken pipe. They had dug under the colony. They had come up behind the defensive line. The civilians screamed. Children cried. The soldiers at the perimeter turned and fired, but they were out of position. The devourers were already between them and the transport. They'll reach the civilians before we can stop them, Oran said. His brain calculated the distances and speeds. The numbers did not lie. We cannot save them. Grabbed his arm. The human's grip was weak compared to but there was something in his eyes that made Oran stop. There's a tunnel system under the colony, said. Old mining tunnels. If we go through them, we can come up right under the transport. We can hit the devourers from behind. Oran processed this information. The tunnels will be full of enemies. The burrowers came from there. We would be walking into their territory. Yes. It would be extremely dangerous. Yes. The chances of survival would be very low. Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had already made a decision and accepted the consequences. Those are kids on that transport, he said. I'm going, you can come or stay, your choice. He turned and ran toward the tunnel entrance. Murphy followed without hesitation, kissed his daughter's picture and ran after them. Looked at Oran for one moment, his young face filled with terror, then ran too. Oran stood alone. His combat protocols told him to stay. The logical choice was to remain on the surface and fight from a distance. Going into the tunnels was tactically unsound. It was likely suicide. But the humans were already gone. They were running toward almost certain death because children needed saving. They did not calculate the odds. They did not consider the logic. They just went. Oran ran after them. The tunnel entrance was a dark hole in the side of a hill. Old wooden beams held up the ceiling. The air smelled like dirt and decay and something worse. The smell of devourers. Handed out small green sticks that glowed when you bent them. Human technology, primitive but effective. "Stay close," he whispered. "Stay quiet. We move fast, we hit them hard, we get out. Understood?" Everyone nodded, even Oran. They went into the darkness. The tunnels were worse than Oran had imagined. They twisted and turned like the guts of some giant animal. The walls were wet and slick. Strange sounds echoed from every direction. Clicks, scratches, the sound of things moving in the dark. Oran's enhanced vision helped, but even he struggled to see clearly. The humans could barely see at all. They moved slowly, carefully, each one keeping a hand on the shoulder of the person in front. Murphy led the way. Her wounds should have slowed her down, but she moved like they did not exist. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every corner, every crack in the walls. "Contact ahead," she whispered. "Dormant nest, maybe 200 of them." Oran looked. She was right. The tunnel opened into a large chamber and the walls were covered with devourers. They hung from the ceiling and clung to the rocks like sleeping bats. Hundreds of blade limbs twitched in the darkness. Hundreds of mouths opened and closed, dreaming of flesh. "We go through," said. "Quiet, no shooting unless absolutely necessary." They entered the chamber. The silence was horrible. Every footstep sounded like thunder. Every breath seemed loud enough to wake the dead. Oran counted the creatures on the walls. His combat protocols calculated how quickly they could kill everyone if they woke up. The numbers were not good. They were halfway through when stepped on something. A bone, old and dry, left over from some previous meal. It cracked under his boot. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. One devourer opened its eyes. Then another, then 10 more, then all of them. The chamber came alive. Hundreds of creatures peeled themselves from the walls and ceiling. Their clicking filled the air. Their blades scraped against stone. "Run!" shouted. They ran. The tunnel behind them filled with devourers. Oran turned and fired as he ran, his 4 arms working independently. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. Bodies fell. More took their place. Tripped, a devourer lunged at him, blade raised. Murphy appeared from nowhere and drove her knife into its skull. She pulled to his feet and pushed him forward. "Move," she screamed. "Keep moving." They ran through tunnels they could barely see. They turned corners without knowing where they led. The devourers followed, an endless wave of hunger and blades. Took a cut across his back. He kept running. Murphy took another wound to her already damaged shoulder. She kept running. Was crying, tears streaming down his face, but he kept running too. Oran's combat protocols were failing. Too many targets, too many threats, too many variables. His perfect soldier brain was overloading. And then they saw light. The tunnel ended in another opening. Daylight poured through it. Beyond it, Oran could see the colony, the transport, the devourers attacking from above. "Go," shouted, "go now." They burst from the tunnel into the open air. The devourers behind them poured out too, but now there was room to fight, room to move, room to die properly if dying was necessary. The devourers at the transport turned. They were surrounded now, caught between the soldiers inside the colony and the squad behind them. For a moment, they seemed confused. That moment was enough. Squad opened fire. Murphy threw a grenade that exploded in the middle of the largest group. Shot devourer after devourer, his rifle never stopping. Found his courage and started screaming as he killed. And Oran stood in the middle of it all, 4 arms firing 4 weapons. watching these impossible creatures fight with everything they had. The battle was not won, not yet. The devourers from the tunnel were still coming. More were appearing from other holes. The swarm was regrouping, preparing for a final assault. But the transport's engines were starting. The ramp was closing. The children were safe. And somehow, against all logic and probability, Oran's squad was still alive. Looked at him through the chaos of battle. Blood ran down the human's face. His uniform was torn. His weapon was almost empty. But he was smiling. "Still think we're a liability?" he asked. Oran did not answer. He could not answer. Because something was happening inside him. Something he had never felt before. Something that should not exist in a warrior. It felt cold. It felt heavy. It made his heart beat faster and his breath come short. He did not know what it was. But he was about to find out. The transport lifted off with the children inside. Oran watched it rise into the sky, engines roaring, metal gleaming in the sunlight. Safe. The mission was complete. But the squad was not safe. The devourers were everywhere now. They poured from the tunnels in endless waves. They crashed through the forest from every direction. The clicking of their jaws filled the air like rain. There were thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. And there were only 5 soldiers left to fight them. "Fall back to the communication tower," shouted. He pointed to a tall metal structure at the edge of the colony. "We hold there until extraction arrives." They ran. Oran's legs carried him faster than the humans, but he slowed himself to stay with them. He did not know why. It was not efficient. It was not logical. But he did it anyway. The communication tower was surrounded by a low wall. Not much protection, but it was something. They climbed over it and took positions, facing outward in all directions. The devourers followed, circling like sharks, clicking and hissing. "How long until extraction?" Murphy asked. Her voice was steady, but her face was white. She had lost too much blood. She should have been unconscious by now. Checked his communicator. 40 minutes. "We won't last 40 minutes, Oran said. His combat protocols had finished their calculations. The numbers were clear. "We are outnumbered by approximately 800 to 1. Even with perfect efficiency, we will run out of ammunition in approximately 12 minutes. We will run out of close combat options in approximately 19 minutes. We will be dead in approximately 23 minutes. The humans looked at him. "Well," said, "that's not great news." Laughed. It was a strange, broken sound. 23 minutes, that's longer than I thought. Reloaded his rifle. His hands were steady. His eyes were calm. "Then we make those 23 minutes count," he said. "We give the transport enough time to get clear. We give those kids a chance to grow up. That's the job. That's what we signed up for." Murphy nodded. "Sounds good to me." "I'm in," said. He kissed his daughter's picture one more time and put it back in his pocket. Wiped his eyes and picked up his rifle. "Me too." They looked at Oran. The warrior stood frozen. His combat protocols were screaming at him. This was suicide. This was pointless. These creatures were accepting death for no logical reason. They could retreat. They could find another way. They could survive. But they were choosing to stay. They were choosing to die so that children they had never met could live. Oran did not understand. He could not understand. His brain was not built to understand this kind of thinking. "I will stay," he heard himself say. "I will fight with you." Smiled, glad to have you. The devourers attacked. They came in waves, each one bigger than the last. The first wave crashed against the wall and died in a storm of plasma and bullets. The second wave climbed over the bodies of the first and died too. The third wave got over the wall before being pushed back. Oran fought like he had never fought before. His 4 arms moved in patterns he had never used, combinations he had never tried. He killed and killed and killed, and still they kept coming. But something was wrong. His body was shaking. His hearts were pounding too fast. His vision was blurring at the edges. His brain kept calculating the odds, the numbers, the time until death, and he could not make it stop. He did not know what was happening to him. And then he saw what the humans were becoming. His rifle ran dry. He did not reach for more ammunition. He did not retreat. He walked forward into the swarm and drew his sidearm. He fired until it was empty, then used it as a club. When it broke, he used his hands. He grabbed a devourer by its blade arm and swung it into two others. He ducked under a slash and drove his fist into a creature's throat. He was covered in blood and dirt and things that should not be named, and he was smiling. Not a scared smile, not a desperate smile, a real smile, the smile of someone who had found exactly where they belonged. Murphy's shoulder finally gave out. Her arm hung useless at her side. She did not stop fighting. She grabbed a devourer by its neck and used it as a shield while she killed others with her knife. When a blade punched through her shield creature and into her side, she laughed. She actually laughed. "That all you got?" she screamed at the swarm. "My grandmother hit harder than that." Ran out of ammunition completely. He picked up a piece of metal pipe and charged into a group of devourers twice his size. He was singing the same happy song about sunshine from before. His voice was loud and clear even as monsters tried to tear him apart. "Oh sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray." A blade cut his left arm clean off. He looked at it, looked at the devourer that had done it, and hit the creature so hard with his pipe that its skull caved in. "That was my favorite arm," he shouted. "Now I'm angry." And then there was the young human, the scared one, the one who had admitted his fear openly, stood on top of the wall. Devourers were climbing toward him from every direction. His rifle was glowing red from overuse. His face was streaked with tears and blood. But he was not running. He was not hiding. He was standing his ground, firing into the swarm, screaming at the top of his lungs. Come on, you ugly things. Is that the best you can do?" A devourer lunged at Oran. That was too slow. His combat protocols had finally failed completely, overloaded by something they could not process. The creature's blade swung toward his face. Jumped off the wall. He threw himself between Oran and the devourer. The blade meant for the went through the human's chest instead. Vel. Oran caught him. The young human looked up at him with fatting eyes. There was blood on his lips. His breath came in wet, ragged gasps. He was dying. "Got him," whispered. "Got the ugly thing." He was right. His last shot had taken the devourer's head clean off. It lay dead beside them. Oran held the human in his arms. He did not know what to say. He did not know what to do. His brain was not working anymore. Nothing was working anymore. "Why?" he asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Why did you do that? You could have lived. You could have let me die." Smiled. It was the same smile had. The same smile Murphy had. The smile of someone who had found their place. "You're my friend," he said. "That's what friends do." His eyes closed. Oran screamed. It was not a battle cry. It was not a war shout. It was something else, something that came from deep inside him, from a place that should not exist. He laid down gently. He stood up. He looked at the swarm still pouring toward them, endless and hungry and terrible. And for the first time in his life, Oran understood what he was feeling. Fear. Not fear of death, not fear of pain, fear of these humans, fear of what they were, fear of what they became when pushed past all limits. They were soft and weak and fragile. They lived short lives and felt too much. They admitted their terror openly and laughed in the face of death. And they could not be stopped. Not by numbers, not by logic, not by anything. Oran picked up his weapons. He looked at still fighting, at Murphy still laughing, at still singing. And he understood. Humans did not fight despite their weakness. They fought because of it. They knew they were fragile. They knew they would die, and they fought anyway, not for logic, not for efficiency, but for each other, for children they had never met, for friends who needed them. This was what made them terrifying. This was what made them unstoppable. The extraction ships appeared in the sky 18 minutes later. They found 4 soldiers still fighting, still alive, surrounded by mountains of devourer corpses. 3 humans, and one young human who had given his life for a friend he had known for only 3 days. Oran carried his body onto the ship himself. He did not let anyone else touch it. The medics said the young human might survive. His heart was still beating barely. They were not sure. Oran sat beside him for the entire flight back. He did not pray, did not believe in gods. But for the first time in his life he hoped. Private Ben survived. The doctors said it was a miracle. The blade had missed his heart by less than an inch. Any closer and he would have been dead before he hit the ground. They called him the luckiest man in the galaxy. Oran knew it was not luck. It was something else. Something he had seen in that young human's eyes before they closed. A will to live that had nothing to do with chance and everything to do with choice. Spent 2 months in the medical bay. Oran visited him every day. At first, they did not talk much. Oran would simply sit beside the bed and watch the monitors. He did not know what to say. He had never had a friend before. But slowly, the silence changed. Would tell stories about his home, a place called Ohio. He talked about his mother and his little sister and a dog named Captain. He talked about the first time he saw snow and the first time he kissed a girl and the moment he decided to join the military. Oran listened. He listened to every word. One day asked him about the... It is hot, Oran said. The sky is red. There are no plants, only rocks and sand. We are born in laboratories and raised in training facilities. We do not have families. We do not have friends. We have only duty. Looked at him for a long moment. That sounds lonely, he said. Oran did not know how to respond. He had never thought of his life as lonely. He had never thought of it as anything. It simply was. Maybe, he said finally. I did not know the word for it. Smiled, now you do. Corporal Danny lost his left arm in the battle, but the doctors gave him a new one. It was made of metal and plastic, stronger than his original arm had ever been. He said he liked it better anyway. Now I can arm wrestle, he joked. Want to try? Oran did try. Beat him twice before Oran figured out the technique. His daughter visited the ship 3 weeks after the battle. Her name was Lily and she was 7 years old. She had her father's smile and her mother's eyes. When she saw Oran, she did not run or scream. She walked right up to him and asked if she could touch his scales. They're pretty, she said, like a dragon. Oran did not know what a dragon was, but he knelt down and let her run her small fingers across his arm. Thank you for saving my daddy, she said. Your daddy saved me, Oran replied, many times. Lily nodded like this made perfect sense. Sergeant Murphy took longer to heal. Her shoulder needed 3 surgeries. Her side needed 2. The doctors told her she would never have full movement in her left arm again. She told them to watch her. 6 weeks after the battle, she was back in the training room, lifting weights with her damaged arm. It hurt. Oran could see the pain in her face every time she moved, but she did not stop. Why do you push yourself so hard? He asked her one day. The doctors said you should rest. Murphy set down her weights and looked at him. Because there's going to be another battle, she said, and another one after that, and people are going to need someone to protect them. That's going to be me. Pain is temporary. Giving up is permanent. She picked up the weights again. Oran watched her until she was finished. Then he picked up his own weights and started training beside her. Lieutenant Sam called a meeting 1 month after the battle. The entire squad gathered in a small room on the ship. Was there in a wheelchair, still recovering. Was there with his new arm. Murphy was there with her scars, and Iran was there, sitting among them like he belonged. "I've been reassigned," said. "Coalition wants me to lead a larger unit, more soldiers, bigger missions." The room was quiet. Iran felt something twist in his chest. He thought it might be sadness. "I asked them if I could bring my team with me," continued. "They said yes, if you want to come." Grinned, "I'm in." Murphy nodded, "Same." Tried to raise his hand and winced. "Me too, as soon as I can walk again." They all looked at Iran. The warrior sat very still. He thought about his people. He thought about his duty. He thought about 300 campaigns and all the battles he had fought alone, without fear, without friends, without anything except the cold perfection of his training. Then he thought about cake falling on a floor and a dog eating it. He thought about sunshine songs and arm wrestling, and a little girl who thought his scales looked like a dragon. "I would like to stay," he said, "if you will have me." Smiled, "We wouldn't have it any other way." Iran submitted his formal request to command the next day. He asked to be permanently assigned to Lieutenant's unit. His superiors were confused. They sent back questions. Why would a decorated warrior, a veteran of centuries, choose to serve with primitive beings? Why would he abandon his own kind for these short-lived, soft-skinned creatures? Iran wrote his response carefully. He knew it would be studied. He knew it would be questioned. He knew it would change the way his people thought about humans forever. "They were engineered without fear because we believed it made us stronger," he wrote. "We were wrong. Humans carry their fear with them into every battle. They feel it, acknowledge it, and fight anyway. This is not weakness. This is something far more dangerous." He paused. He thought about jumping in front of a blade meant for him. He thought about Murphy laughing as monsters tried to kill her. He thought about walking into impossible odds with a smile on his face. "They cannot be broken because we do not bend," he continued. "Humans cannot be broken because they bend constantly and never snap. I do not wish to fight against such beings. I do not wish for any species to face them as enemies. I will stand beside them instead, and I will learn what it means to be afraid and fight regardless." The war against the Devourer swarm lasted 4 more years. Iran fought in 67 battles alongside the humans. He learned to tell jokes. He learned to sing songs. He learned to hope and fear and love, all the things his creators had tried to remove. He attended his daughter's birthday party through a video screen. She showed him the cake before anyone could eat it. The dog did not get it this time. He trained in blade techniques. The young human was not very good at first, but he kept trying. He always kept trying. He stood as the official witness when married a diplomat, the first such union in galactic history. It was a strange ceremony, mixing human traditions with rituals, but it worked. Love, Iran learned, did not care about species. And every time the fighting grew desperate, every time the odds turned impossible, Iran felt that cold grip in his chest, that fear. He had learned to treasure it. Because fear, the humans taught him, was not the enemy of courage. It was the proof of it. On the last day of the war, when the final Devourer hive was destroyed and the galaxy was finally safe, Iran stood on a balcony overlooking a human city. Fireworks exploded in the sky. People danced in the streets. Music played from every window. Found him there, staring at the celebration. "What are you thinking about?" the young human asked. He was not so young anymore. 4 years of war had put lines on his face and gray in his hair, but his eyes were the same, kind and brave and full of life. Iran thought for a long moment. "I am thinking about the first time I met your squad," he said. "I thought you were weak. I thought you were a liability. I thought you would get me killed." Laughed, and now. Iran looked at him. At this small, fragile, impossible creature who had thrown himself in front of a blade for a friend he barely knew. "Now I know the truth," Iran said. "You are the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and I am proud to call you my family." Smiled. "Family," he said, "I like that." They stood together and watched the fireworks until the sun came up. Oran was no longer afraid. He was home,